I pressed the lobby button with a shaky finger, juggling my suitcase handle as I tucked my passport back into my purse. The elevator hummed quietly, the faint chime of the doors closing masking the chaos in my chest. We were already running late. The flight to Barcelona, our long-awaited escape, was boarding in just over an hour. And now, of course, the elevator decided to take its sweet time. Then he stepped in behind me. I didn't turn, but I could feel the weight of his presence the moment the doors closed. My son. My adult son. 24, tall like his father, but warmer, sharper in all the ways that matter. He was the one who had insisted we take this trip after I found out about the affair. The affair. 3 years of lies, of business trips that were really hotel rendezvous. I had discovered it 2 weeks ago, purely by accident, an open email on my husband's laptop. My world had tilted then spun sideways. But I hadn't screamed. I hadn't cried. Instead, I'd packed for Spain. Just me and my son. "Did you remember the charger?" he asked, breaking the silence.
His voice grounded me. Calm.
Familiar. "Yeah," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. In the side pocket. The elevator gave a sudden jolt, and then nothing. The hum stopped. The air stilled. We both froze. The panel flickered. Buttons blinked erratically. Then darkness. "Of course," I muttered, a humorless laugh catching in my throat. He reached for the emergency call button. "Looks like we're stuck." Panic flared in my chest. Not because of the elevator, but because we were alone. With time. With silence. With all the things we hadn't said. He turned toward me, the faint glow of his phone screen lighting his face. "You okay?" I nodded, pressing a hand to the metal wall for balance.
Yeah.
"Just annoyed. We don't have time for this." He smiled softly, sliding down to sit on his suitcase.
"Well,
We're officially at life's mercy." I joined him, the floor surprisingly warm beneath us. The silence stretched, filled only by the low hum of static from the speaker above. "You think they'll get us out soon?" I asked.
probably."
"But not soon enough for that flight." I exhaled hard, resting my head back against the wall. He shifted closer, his shoulder brushing mine. "You still want to go?" "More than ever," I said. I needed to get away." He didn't ask from what. He already knew. "I hate that he did that to you," he said quietly. I turned to look at him. His jaw was tight. His hands clenched. I reached for his fingers and, to my surprise, he didn't pull away. "I should have seen it," I whispered. "No," he said sharply. "You loved him. That's not a crime." The air between us pulsed. It felt like we were holding our breath, both waiting for the other to say something neither of us dared. "You've been different lately," I said finally. He looked at me, eyes shadowed in the low light. "How so?" "Quieter. Protective. Like you're holding something back." He hesitated. "Then, maybe I am." There it was. The unspoken thing. The shift in our dynamic that had begun months ago, when he started checking in on me more than usual. When he stopped calling me Mom so often and started saying my name like he wanted to remind me I was more than just a mother. I met his gaze. And for the first time in a long while, I let myself see him. Not as the boy I raised, but as the man he'd become. Something trembled inside me, delicate and terrifying. "We're here," I said, voice almost a whisper. "And no one else is." His lips parted. "I know." And just like that, the elevator didn't feel small anymore. It felt infinite. Time moves differently in a sealed box. Minutes stretch, seconds linger. And every breath between us felt louder than the one before.
He was still looking at me.
Not as a son glancing at his mother, but as a man studying a woman. I tried to shake it off. I really did. But the way his hand was still in mine, loose, warm, present, unraveled something I'd spent years tightly winding up. You should hate him, he murmured. I don't, I admitted. That's the worst part. I hate what he did, but not him. He nodded slowly. You're allowed to grieve someone who's still alive. I think that's the hardest kind of loss. His words struck me deep. I turned my face toward him, my cheek almost brushing his shoulder. He didn't flinch. He didn't move away. I wonder, I whispered, what would have happened if we hadn't found out? He was quiet for a moment. Maybe you would have gone on pretending, he said, until one day you forgot what being wanted felt like. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Too late for that. Is it? He asked. There was something dangerous in his voice now, soft, but not uncertain. Curious. Sharp. A tension that didn't come from the elevator walls, but from everything we'd buried for too long. I looked at him fully. The slope of his nose, the line of his jaw, the way his lashes curled against the dim light. He looked older in the shadows, like someone who had waited patiently to be seen. Why did you come with me? I asked, my voice barely audible. You had no reason to. His thumb brushed over the edge of my hand. Because I couldn't let you go alone. Not now. I swallowed hard. Not as a son? He met my eyes. As someone who sees you. The air in the elevator tightened. My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure he could hear it. My breath came faster and he noticed. He always noticed. His hand moved, not rushed, not bold, but deliberate. He tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered, brushing against my cheek, tracing the edge of my jaw like it was the most natural thing in the world. I didn't stop him. The walls were still. The world outside forgotten. It was just us. Two people suspended between floors and realities. No roles to play. No eyes watching. Just truth. You shouldn't, I started. But my voice was trembling. And I didn't finish. He leaned in, close enough that I could feel the heat of his breath, see the hesitation in his eyes. I know I shouldn't, he whispered. But neither of us pulled away. I had never felt more aware of myself than in that moment, how my skin prickled under his gaze, how the thud of my pulse echoed in places I hadn't remembered were there. How had we ended up here? In a broken elevator, yes, but it was more than that. It was the glances that lasted too long at family dinners, the way he touched the small of my back when no one was watching, the way he said my name instead of calling me Mom when he was upset or when he wanted my attention. It was the quiet knowing I had pretended not to feel for months. Or maybe years. I don't know what this is, I said quietly, not trusting the shape of my voice. He sat beside me, legs drawn up, arms resting casually on his knees like we were just talking about the weather. But his eyes were anything but casual. It's the truth, he said. I let out a shaky breath, pressing my palms against my thighs, needing to feel grounded. Somewhere, somehow. We're not supposed to feel like this. I didn't plan it, he murmured, but I also didn't run from it. I looked at him, then really looked. His face was open, waiting. Not demanding, not pleading. Just there. Honest. Raw. I'm your mother, I whispered. His voice came gently. You're more than that. You're a woman who's been forgotten. And I see you. I always have. I blinked hard, but the tears still came. Because it wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Like it hurt him to watch me stay small. Like he'd been waiting for me to remember myself. And in that flickering light, in the stale warmth of the elevator, I did. I'm scared, I confessed, my voice nearly breaking. He leaned in then, not touching me, but closer. Close enough to make it impossible to pretend the air between us wasn't charged. So am I. We sat in silence. And the silence wasn't awkward. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was dense, thick with all the things we didn't know how to name. Finally, I asked, when did it start? For you? He smiled faintly. The first time I saw you cry. You thought you were alone, sitting in the kitchen. It was the night after your anniversary. I came down for water and saw you at the table, crying into your coffee. I'd never seen you like that before, and something inside me shifted. I closed my eyes. I didn't know anyone saw, I whispered. I did. I couldn't sleep after that. Every time I looked at you, I saw more. I turned toward him. My knees touched his. You shouldn't have to carry that. I'm not a boy anymore, he said. I know what I feel, and I'm not ashamed of it. He reached for my hand again, threading his fingers through mine like it was the simplest thing in the world. And it wasn't the touch that unraveled me. It was the peace in it, the gentleness, the ease. Like he had always known this moment would come, and he was just waiting for me to be ready. I didn't know how long we stayed like that, holding hands in a stopped elevator between time and reason. All I knew was that, for once, I didn't feel like someone's wife or someone's mother. I just felt like me.
Seen.
Wanted. Chosen. His thumb brushed against my knuckle, slow and deliberate, as if he wasn't asking for permission, but waiting to see if I'd pull away. I didn't. I'm older, and I'm your mother, I whispered, the truth coming out of my mouth hard. You should be with someone your own age. Someone who doesn't have the baggage I have. He moved closer, our knees touching. Do you think I care? You should. He shook his head, his eyes dropping to our linked hands. I care about you. The simplicity of it took the air out of my lungs. No drama, no hesitation. Just the truth. Naked and unclothed. I forced myself to look at him with my full eyes. The soft stubble on his jaw. The shadows under his eyes from not sleeping last night because we talked until dawn, pretending the outside world didn't exist. The quiet tenderness he showed when he thought I wasn't looking. I thought last night was just because you felt sorry for me, I said, hating how vulnerable it sounded. He almost flinched.
No.
God, no. So what was that? He swallowed. I finally gave in. My breath caught in my throat. Why? He closed his eyes for a moment, as if confessing out loud had cost him something. Wanting you, he whispered. For months. Maybe longer. Then something inside me broke, something fragile and painful, held together by denial. The confession slipped through the cracks, warm and terrible. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. He looked up again, and there was a disgust in his eyes that I had never seen in a man his age. Because you kept pretending not to feel it. My pulse quickened. No, he muttered. Don't lie to me in the elevator 6x6. A shaky laugh escaped my lips. That's right. His shoulder pressed gently against mine. I didn't go with you because it was Barcelona. I went because you were going to Barcelona. I looked at him, at his seriousness, at the way he didn't try to impress me or convince me. He just told me his truth, the truth I was afraid to face. Yesterday had been a moment of weakness, I tried to tell myself. A mistake. An accident. But sitting here now, with his warmth touching me, and his hand holding mine as if it were there, I knew it wasn't a coincidence at all. I'm scared, I said quietly, wanting this. He leaned in so that his forehead was almost touching mine. Not touching. So close that the air between us trembled. I've been scared all this time, he breathed. But losing you scares me even more. My chest tightened, full and aching. And what happens after Barcelona? I asked. His fingers tightened around mine. We deal with that when we get there. A pause.
Thick. Warm.
Heavy with everything we'd been afraid to say. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he added, but tell me right now that you don't feel this too, and I'll let go. My heart slammed against my ribs. I couldn't say it. Not because I lacked courage, but because every inch of me was buzzing with the truth he'd just dragged out of hiding. I looked at him, really looked, and finally let the words fall. I do feel it. His breath shuddered. Something softened inside him, something that had been tense since the moment the elevator stopped. And for the first time since yesterday, since the night we both pretended was a one-time mistake, he let himself smile. A quiet, relieved, almost disbelieving smile. "Then we're done pretending," he said. And I didn't argue. His smile, that quiet, relieved, defeated smile, barely had time to settle before something inside me broke open completely. I didn't even realize I was leaning toward him until the space between us thinned to a breath. His eyes flicked down for half a second, to my mouth, and that tiny movement sent a tremor through me so sharp it nearly stole my voice. "Are you sure?" he whispered. It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't hesitation. It was reverence, a handing over of control. I swallowed hard, my pulse drumming at the base of my throat. "I've been sure," I breathed. "I've just been terrified." Something in his expression softened, like he'd been holding his breath for hours and only now allowed himself to inhale. Then he lifted his hand, slowly, so unbearably slowly, and traced the back of his fingers along my jaw. Not possessive, not demanding, gentle, careful, as if he was afraid I might disappear if he touched too boldly. I closed my eyes for just a moment, not to hide, but to feel. The warmth of his skin, the closeness of his breath, the trembling tension that had lived between us for months finally sharpening to a single, fragile point. When I opened my eyes again, he was closer. So close that I could feel the heat of his lips hovering just above mine. Not touching. Not yet. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I whispered back, voice barely stable. "Don't." The word had barely left my mouth before he closed the last inch. The kiss wasn't rushed. It wasn't wild. It wasn't the hungry, reckless thing it could have been. It was slow.
Deep.
A confession made through touch instead of words. His lips were warm, steady, almost careful at first, as if he was giving me one last chance to pull away. But I didn't. I leaned into him, my fingers curling instinctively around the collar of his shirt, drawing him closer with a need I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. He exhaled softly against my mouth, a sound that made my chest tighten, and he kissed me again, firmer this time, like he finally believed I wanted this too. The elevator was completely silent. Just the faint hum of emergency lights and the whisper of our breaths mingling between us. When we finally separated, it wasn't dramatic. We didn't jerk apart or gasp. We just paused. Foreheads resting together. Breaths uneven. Hands still holding on like neither of us knew how to let go. He was the first to speak, voice low and unsteady. "Please tell me that wasn't just the elevator, or fear, or the moment." I lifted my hand to his cheek, brushing away a strand of hair that had fallen over his brow. "It wasn't the moment," I said. "It was everything we've been avoiding." His eyes softened, dark and earnest. And now, I whispered, "we stopped pretending. We stayed like that for a long time. Not kissing, not speaking, just resting against each other, like the moment had finally allowed us to exhale after months of holding back." His thumb traced the back of my hand absent-mindedly, the silence between us no longer heavy, just full.
Soft.
Real. The elevator made a low clicking sound. We both looked up. A hum. The lights flickered once. Then twice. Then the floor beneath us shifted slightly, a slow, steady groan of motion beneath the stillness. We were moving again. And just like that, time restarted. The world outside returned. The airport. The flight. The hotel in Barcelona, with 2 rooms booked but only one that felt like it mattered now.
He looked at me.
I looked back. But neither of us said anything until the floor number above the door blinked 3. "I guess this is our stop," he said softly. I nodded, my stomach tightening.
"Yeah."
Then, more quietly, "It's not going to be simple, is it?" His eyes met mine, steady as ever.
No.
But real things rarely are. There was a part of me that wanted to run, to bury it all, to fold this kiss and this feeling into a drawer labeled one-time mistakes and lock it up forever. But I couldn't. I didn't want to. As the elevator doors slid open, the cold brightness of the world outside poured in. Voices, luggage wheels, departure announcements echoing down polished hallways. He stood up, then turned, extending his hand toward me. Not demanding, not desperate, just open. An invitation. Not just to Barcelona, but to something we hadn't dared name. I took it. And as our fingers laced together, as we stepped out into the chaos of the terminal like nothing had happened, I knew that something had changed forever. Not loudly, not publicly, not with declarations or drama, just with truth. Quiet, dangerous, undeniable. Barcelona was still waiting. But now we were arriving differently. Together.